Hello, lovely creatures. Welcome. This is my first ever podcast episode. I am Enigmystic. I am a subliminal listening veteran and a subliminal creator. I've been listening to subliminals for almost 7 years, and I've also been creating subliminals for almost 3 years. Now, today, I wanted to discuss how to utilize somatics alongside subliminals. So, some of you may be wondering, what on earth are somatics? What is somatic work? So we all know what cognitive means, I would presume. Cognitive refers to the mind, the thoughts, what you do with them, your response to them. Somatics is more the body, sensation, emotion, feeling, and intuition. Somatics generally deals with your body and your nervous system, whereas cognitive work, like thoughts, generally deal with the cognitive side. So we're going to focus more today on the somatics because I feel like this is a topic that not a lot of people touch on in the subliminal community. In fact, may I argue, primarily most of people's tools and tricks for manifestation with subliminals primarily deals with the cognitive side of the coin. But we should not forget the somatic side. So that's what I'm here to discuss today. Now, when we're referring to the nervous system primarily deals with different states. There's the parasympathetic state, the sympathetic state, as well as a heightened state, or may you even call it an overstimulated state. Those ones are not specifically scientific terms, but there's baseline and then non-baseline. There's a resting state and a heightened state. Now, when we're speaking to the nervous system, generally speaking, we want to spend most of our time at baseline, with the exception of moments where we need to go into a deep rest mode or a heightened mode. Now, it is a very unfortunate misconception that some people hold in the somatic community that you always need to be regulated and you always need to be at baseline. This is simply not true. In fact, it is important that we are able to fluctuate between the states, but spend most of our time around baseline. In order to have high excitement and joy, and also to be able to be ambitious and motivated, and to do things that require a little bit more of a kick in our step and a kick in the rear, we have to go into heightened states. So this could be similar to an adrenaline rush in some respects, but that would mean you're going way too high off the margin. If anything, you kind of want to fluctuate a little bit upwards, but not all the way to the ceiling where you feel like you're going to have a nervous breakdown. Going into a deeper resting mode, beyond just baseline, it can go into states of disassociation where you completely numb out if you go too far down. I would highly recommend not going into that state unless if it's absolutely necessary for survival. When you're going deeper beyond baseline into a resting state, you want to just graze a little bit below, kind of similar in the respect of getting motivated or driven or excited about something, you go a little bit above baseline. A person who does not have a regulated nervous system will either spend a very large portion of their time in full disassociation, completely numbed out, and not grounded in reality, or they are someone who is highly adrenalized, in hyper-go mode, and feeling like they're being chased by a tiger 24/7. Now, mind you, our nervous systems are built this way in order to ensure survival, and in order to ensure that we can get by, reproduce, do all these different things. That's what evolution has wanted for us. But with regards to it going way too high or way too low, those are usually supposed to be reserved for moments when we're literally being chased by a tiger or about to be eaten by one, or we witness something that's terrible that isn't necessarily being done to us. But regardless, one of the main issues that us human beings have is coming back to baseline after something happens. So there's actually quite a large number of people on this planet that don't really spend very much time in baseline. If anything, many of them struggle to get back to baseline. So this is where subliminals can come in and can make a difference, but also this is often a key thing that many people miss when it comes to subliminals and actually manifesting with them. It is extremely difficult and extremely challenging to manifest when you are either disassociated and numb, or when you are heightened and anxious or adrenalized. If you do not spend very much time at your baseline, you will find it extraordinarily difficult to manifest things into your life. If anything, it will be near impossible, or it will feel like it never happens to you. You may get into a victim mindset where you feel like you're not special enough, or the universe doesn't want that for you, or you haven't worked hard enough, or you haven't earned it, or there's something inherently wrong with you. You might feel some level of shame or guilt, or even anger at the universe or at yourself for not manifesting properly. I can rest assure you that that is simply not true. You are deserving of your desires. Your desires are an innate reflection of divinity, of the divine. But the reality is you can't receive your desires or even go after them, because you need both. You need to be in a space of receiving them, and you also need to take inspired action, both a state of surrender and also movement. But you can't achieve that when you are completely whacked out in your nervous system. Somatics deals with training the nervous system to come back to baseline after being heightened or disassociated. And it also enables us to learn how to come back to baseline after even minute stressors. Because our nervous systems were attuned to help us survive, while we don't necessarily get chased down by tigers anymore, small everyday stressors can trigger our nervous systems into the 5 different states, which I like to call the 5 Fs. There is the typical ones that a lot of people like to talk about, like flight or fight. But there's also freeze, flop, and fawn. Flight means to run away from the problem or from the thing that is dangerous. Fight means to literally fight it. There's freeze, which is where you immediately tense up and freeze. Your body cannot move. It's completely involuntary. You don't choose it. And your perception and your awareness of everything around you increases to a significant amount. You become hyper aware of your surroundings. And even your field of vision may broaden to the point where your peripheral vision gets expanded. That typically happens in freeze. Flop is essentially like borderline fainting, if not a full faint. You may have seen those old period dramas and whatnot and even maybe some gray silent films that typically would have women fainting out of sheer distress. Now, most of those were, of course, theatrical, and generally speaking, women weren't fainting as much as people wanted us to believe. And no, it wasn't the corsets. A lot of people get that wrong. It's, once again, some historical drama that the men wrote in. If you asked any women back then, that was simply not the case. They would faint because it was considered socially acceptable and added a little hint of intrigue and mystery and drama. But that aside, flop would be considered similar to that fainting, but not in a dramatic way. It's almost like a combination of freeze and flight, where you simply keel over. You are not very much connected to your body anymore. It's full disassociation, full numbness. Some people have even described their flop response as an out-of-body experience, where they can watch what's happening to their body from a distance, and it feels like their consciousness got ripped out. And then, of course, there's fawn. Now, fawn is referring to this, I guess it would bring up the imagery of like a deer fawn. And a deer fawn will often act really cute and really sweet in front of its mom, and also in front of predators. It'll often hide and just stay very still. But it'll often look up at its predator and give this sort of like a batting of eyelashes. That's generally where we get it from, is that term, fawn. Now, with fawn, it usually means you're trying to appease the thing in front of you that is actively hurting you. So this can show up in many different ways, such as women not decentering men and becoming tools for the patriarchy and desperately trying to please men around them and please the authority and the patriarch within other men. And men do this too to other men as well, but especially you see this in women. They're just so desperately trying to please the patriarchy and please authority so that they don't get disemboweled or socially rejected. And social rejection to us human beings also feels like a life or death situation because we are naturally social animals. We are herd animals. We're not meant to walk a lonely, solitary, individual path like a snow leopard. We're meant to exist in groups, much like cows do. But the issue being is that we will often use this fawn response, especially towards other human beings, generally as a social response to perceived potential abandonment or rejection. Because back in our tribal days, millennia ago, to be socially rejected or abandoned could mean certain death in some circumstances. To be banished from a group was inherently dangerous. We needed each other in order to survive and to stay safe. So many of us learned to adapt to the social conditions and the social expectations around us. Generally speaking, this was only applied in terms of aggression or antisocial behavior that would threaten the group and its safety. That was really the only time that would apply. And most of these people would not stay in fawn mode for more than a brief few seconds when they were being held accountable for being antisocial or violent or aggressive. Nowadays, we have so many social systems in place that disconnect us from our humanity, so many of us are in constant fawn mode. Even if you're not technically aware of it, you may be fawning towards capitalism, towards patriarchy. You may be fawning towards your parents, towards authority figures. You may be fawning towards certain societal expectations, such as fashion or gender roles. This could vary greatly. This can even happen if you are stuck in a religious space, in a religious community that you don't align with and you don't believe in. Now, personally, I have no problem with religion, but what I do have a problem with is people being forced into it against their will, or using religion as a tool for control, harm, aggression, violence, anything in the realm of hatred. It's not what religion was meant to be for. It was meant to be for love. But that all aside, fawn can show up in many different areas, but I do especially see it in religious groups, as well as women or people who are very much stuck in a capitalistic or patriarchal mindset. And dare I say, even people who are caught up in colonialism too. There's people who were bystanders and kind of just watched everything as colonization happened in different countries and nations and regions. There were the victims, the people who lived on that land and were colonized, and then there were the actual colonizers. Even most of Europe was colonizing or self-colonizing long before other lands were getting colonized, long before places like Asia, Africa, Australia, and North America and South America were getting colonized. Europe was one of the main places that got colonized first. But fawn is generally a response where you're kind of just allowing colonizers to get away with what they want, capitalists to get away with what they want. You often see this used colloquially along with terms like bootlicker. If you are someone who wants to lick the boots, so to speak, of a billionaire, or a major figurehead in some form of business or authority, that's a fawn response. And it's generally because you're having that primordial ancient fear that you're going to be ostracized or punished in some way for going against the interests of the majority of the group. So it takes a lot of bravery to step outside of social norms and societal norms and what's primarily expected of you. Now, what about the other Fs? The 4 other Fs, and not just fawn? Well, these show up in many places too. You can see, for example, freeze, which is very similar to fawn, show up in spaces where people are a little bit tuned out, a little bit disassociated. You can see them just kind of zoning out on their phone all the time, or with reality TV, or they're just not really present or all there. That could be a bit of a milder freeze response. You also might see some aspects of that in people who have a 100-yard stare, or people who are just very hyper aware of a space but don't really have much to say. They seem very much caught up in their own head. Flop, you often will see this with people who are also not really all there, but also this could happen with people who have very intense nervous fainting spells out of anxiety. This is not to be confused with things like narcolepsy, which involves literally fainting. It's more of a physiological response. But You can see both flop and freeze kind of showing up with people who are numb, disassociated, tuned out, not really all there, or might even just straight up faint in certain situations where they were present one moment and then they have a sort of a half faint and they kind of zone out. This can also show up in flight, in a sort of way where the person is kind of fleeing with their consciousness or their mind out of the social situation or whatever uncomfortable situation that they're in. Flight can also show up in people who form many friendships or relationships and they leave them very quickly because they're scared of being abandoned or rejected first. This can also show up with people who constantly will get a new job and then quit that job. This can show up in people who are taking flight away from examining themselves, people who constantly will discover something and then immediately run away from it. People who might be a little bit scared of growing or challenging themselves or facing death and then a rebirth of themselves and kind of running away from their problems too, so to speak. If you see someone kind of, veering away from facing their own shit, that can be a flight response. It can literally just be a trauma response. Fight. This can show up with people who are very aggressive, very argumentative, very much, what's the word? Not quite bloodthirsty, but I mean, you could say that literally in some cases, the people who are very much warmongers or really want to just beat people up. In its most extreme states, this could be people who are gangbanging or are going around and starting wars or getting very much involved in wars. But on a smaller scale, this could just be a person who is constantly combative and constantly looking for an argument and constantly wanting to rip apart what you say or rip apart your standpoint or your opinion or your perspective and be victorious. Now, this is not the people who are looking for just a genuine debate, are asking you questions. If they're just asking you questions, they're not trying to start a conflict with you. They're trying to discover more about you and be curious. If you're having a genuine, visceral response to someone just asking you questions, I would highly recommend you examine yourself, because that's very different than someone who is generally going, no, that's bullshit, that's not true, go fuck yourself. Someone who does that constantly is rather exhausting to be around, but that's because they're in fight mode. They're in competition mode. And speaking of competition, fight mode can also show up in workspaces where someone is highly competitive all the time. Everything is a competition. Many people even just have a competition that they don't really let other people in on. This can show up in even the subliminal spaces where people feel like they have to mog others. Mogging and the looks maxing community are very much obsessed with this competitive, hierarchical sort of pyramid structure of everyone wanting to be like a Stacy or an Eve or a Chad or whatever the hell they want to call the people that are at the very top of the pyramid, and the majority of people are at the bottom. But they're constantly in this competitive sort of mode where they have to compare themselves to others. And they may not let other people know, but they feel like they have to be better than another person. Otherwise, their ego gets wounded and they feel like shit. So you'll have to excuse my verbiage and my language. I will be swearing every once in a while. But in this case, it can also not just be competition in looks, but this can also show up in men who are very competitive with each other when it comes to money, athleticism, muscles, having the most women on their phone, having the most followers. And women can have the same thing too, of who's got the best of the best, who's got the better this or that or the other. And the comparison game does generally stem from that fight response, feeling like you have to one-up the other people around you. And when you are able to let that subside, you realize that life is not a competition. You can have playful competition where, for example, you're entering a contest or you're doing a sports game. And that's playful, fun competition. But good sportsmanship generally recommends that you have respect for the person in front of you, for your opponent, and you're fair and honorable and just. And you don't necessarily see yourself as the better player. It's just you had maybe a better or a worse game. And it's just a game. It's not meant to be a measure of anyone's worth or anyone's validity. Now, with all of those 5 F's in mind, you can probably look around at all of the people around you And also look at the mirror at yourself and realize that almost all of us will cycle through the 5 Fs throughout our days, throughout our weeks and months. Some people will fall into one of the 5 Fs more often than others, maybe like 1 or 2. That will be your main trauma response, your main response to the hellscape that we are currently living in on planet Earth. And that is completely okay. I'm not pointing any of these things out to disparage anybody. This is actually more of a curiosity, an exploration, if you will, and also a place for you to ignite some compassion. And not only that, use it as a power source for fuel for your subliminal manifestations, excuse me. Had a little bit of a little something stuck in my throat there. I will not be editing for this first one because I don't particularly want to, and I just want to be a little bit more raw and real and vulnerable with you guys. So I'm not going to be here to be prim or polished or perfect. I'm just going to be imperfectly human and a little bit silly at times. But anyways, I digress. So when you think of all of these responses and you see many people in society experiencing them, including yourself, this is not a place for you to point at them and go, there's something wrong with you. You need to fix that. You should not be doing that or feeling that. These are natural human innate responses to a very sick world that we live in right now. If a person is having these responses, it is completely normal. It is completely understandable. And it's very, very common. And that makes all of us beautifully human because it shows that we actually give a shit about the world that we live in. All of it stems from a place of caring about ourselves and also caring about other people. And when you live in a sick society, people are going to act sick. And if someone acts healthy in a sick society, they're probably the people that are starting up the bullcrap. And I'm pointing mostly at the billionaires and the oligarchs and the crazy tech people up top that are causing a lot of the problems that we see today. Not necessarily pointing at someone who is genuinely living a happy and enriched life and they're not seeking to make society worse. Key point difference there. But now, what do you do with all of it? You now know that yourself and many other people around you go through different responses. You become aware of them, first of all. And I'm not just talking about hearing about it on a podcast or a video. You may have heard of all of these terms before, and this might just be a refresher and a reminder for you. But I want to challenge you to not just be cognitively aware of them, but also have body awareness of them. What does it feel like in your body to have these responses? Can you sit with them without immediately trying to change them? Without immediately saying that there's something wrong with you, guilting or shaming yourself? Can you just be with them and observe them? If it's too painful for you to sit with and be with, then I would highly recommend looking into getting a somatic trauma therapist to help you move through these feelings and help you to sit with them without getting overwhelmed. There is a certain terminology that we use in the field of somatics that is referred to as your window of tolerance. Your window of tolerance refers to what you are capable of feeling and being present for, generally speaking, when it comes to trauma responses, emotions, processing, stuck feelings, etc. Some of us have a very narrow window of tolerance, especially if you've gone through a lot of trauma and you have PTSD or CPTSD or some other trauma-based disorder, such as a personality disorder. In those cases, when you have an extremely narrow window of tolerance, I really, really encourage you to get some form of a therapist so that they can help you to expand it over time. If you already have a good window of tolerance that's relatively open, you're usually in a safe zone to be able to slowly but surely expand it on your own. Now, I'm not saying you have to feel every single feeling and every single trauma and every single stressor you've ever felt in your life all at once, because that is extremely unreasonable to demand of a human being. We only have so much capacity at a time. What I'm more asking you to do is just to attune to the present moment. Start by focusing on just one sensation in your body. In my case, as of recently, I've had a little bit of a sore hip, specifically my right hip. It's been just a little bit achy. And every time that I've sat with it, it's primarily been urging me to make a little bit more movement happen. And not just physical movement, but more movement for what I want to express, what I want to create. And as I've been sitting and creating more and doing more and creating more than consuming, it's been starting to lessen. And as I sit with it and I comfort it and I approach this ache inside of myself as if it were the younger version of me, it's softened, but it's also been challenging me to fulfill a need that needs to be fulfilled. Many sensations in your body, whether it's hot, cold, numb, tingly, painful, whatever it may be, expansive or contracting, intense, could be really anything. It's usually there to deliver a message. And that's generally how I approach my own bodily sensations, is it's trying to show me something. It's trying to show me a stuck feeling, a stuck memory, a trauma, or even just a day-to-day need or desire that needs to be fulfilled. It's really hard for you to manifest big things in your life if your body is screaming at you to just do the basic thing like drink some water and eat some food. Your body and your nervous system are going to be the basis of you changing your assumptions and changing your beliefs and actually having a good self-concept. A lot of people approach self-concept from the top-down approach. They approach it from thoughts and your mindset. But what good is your mindset and your thoughts if your subconscious and your body is in shambles? Truthfully, you need to have a marriage of both sides. Yes, thinking good thoughts and good mindset is extremely important to the process. I won't deny that. But there's been a gross exaggeration and overfocus on just one side. And even if you don't use subliminals or you're just starting to get into them, you don't have to use subliminals in order to get what you want. They're just a tool. The magic is within you. And if you don't like me using the word magic, I do apologize. I don't mean it quite literally that you're doing witchcraft. If it goes against your belief system, I completely understand that. But I'm using it as more of a colloquial term here for you have it all within you. You have manifestation power. You're able to make things happen. Or if you outsource the power to say, like God, Allah, what have you, then do your bidding. But I'm going to approach it more from an individualistic standpoint here. The divine is all around us, and it's all within us. We live in a field of consciousness. This has been proven by quantum physics. Your field of consciousness around you and your perception of the field that is around you, according to quantum physics, is going to be very much based on your belief system. How you perceive reality is based on your beliefs. And your beliefs are not rooted in solely what you think or your mindset. This is where it gets tricky. It's been proven by science, by psychology, by somatic psychology, by cognitive psychology, all of these fields, that your subconscious is where your assumptions and your beliefs lie. And many of you in the subliminal community already know this, but I'm going to add a few bits of nuance here that maybe some of you have not been educated upon or haven't researched for yourself. And this is where a lot of subliminal makers, while they are well-intentioned, are not aware of this either, and they don't implement it in their affirmations or the way that they structure their subliminals. Your subconscious is also ruled by your body. Your body, your sensations, your emotions, your feelings are material that arises from the darkness and the depths of your subconscious mind. Subliminals directly target your subconscious mind because it's bypassing your conscious mind. The difference between the two, I like to use a bit of a metaphor, some simile here. Imagine you have a drip coffee filter. And you've got some coffee grounds in the top, and you've got a mug below, and you got some hot water. The mug below is going to be your subconscious mind, the one that is having all of the subliminal affirmations go into. You're pouring some hot water over. That filter that is holding the coffee grounds is your conscious mind, specifically the filter. The coffee grounds and the hot water that you're pouring through the filter and into the mug is external stimuli. So this can be other people talking. This can be intentional thoughts that you implant into your brain. The ones that you choose, not the ones that just randomly come in from out of nowhere. This can be your sensations outside of you, your five senses, so to speak. What you taste, you smell, you touch, you see, you hear. Or even just your balance, your sense of time too. Those are other senses that are included here. This can also be, things that you read, movies that you watch, a number of different things. And even beautiful experiences, transcendental experiences, they all get poured through this coffee filter, through your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is there to process it. What it's doing is it is literally filtering out any debris that is not meant to go in your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind, what it's going to do is it's going to take all of the material that's around you, and it's going to determine if it needs to be stored as long-term deep memory, as a new belief, or a new assumption, or if it needs to be interpreted as something very deeply emotional. And also your conscious mind is going to let different things drip through, such as emotions that are a bit more surface level. Simple, like subtle mood shifts and changes. Nothing crazy, just subtle mood changes. Now, while the hot water and that coffee is getting poured through this filter, all of the coffee grounds that are being left behind are the things that your conscious mind has determined that your subconscious mind does not need, or might even be harmful. So, for example, let's say I am watching a movie, and the movie has some violence in it. I don't want my subconscious mind to believe that I am living in a violent, war-torn zone if I'm living in a peaceful country. So my conscious mind will filter out that violence to tell my subconscious mind that I'm just watching a movie. If you didn't have your conscious mind there, acting as that filter, those coffee grounds would fall right into the mug, and you would have those gross coffee grounds floating around in your subconscious mind, aka these bits of violence. Your subconscious mind would go into the belief that you are living in a war-torn zone and you are absolutely fucked, and you have to be in survival mode now. So your conscious mind is making sure material that doesn't belong in your subconscious is getting filtered out. It's important that we have our conscious mind for certain things. But here's the thing. If you are approaching subliminals from a cognitive standpoint, where you're only throwing good thoughts at it and a good mindset and then throwing on your playlist, sometimes you'll get somewhere. You might get some small results. You might get no results at all even. But if your subconscious and if your nervous system are completely out of whack, any material that is going directly into your subconscious, might even get rejected. Because when your subconscious and your nervous system and your body is in a state of numbness or hypervigilance or adrenalization or anything that isn't, if it's not able to come back to baseline, it's not going to process it. If you are constantly all the way up or all the way down, and you are never spending time in baseline, your subconscious will not process new beliefs. It actually will do the opposite. It may even reject it. You might even get things like extreme nightmares. You might get physiological responses where you become very tense. It might even aggravate your nervous system into believing that it is under attack, because your subconscious mind is already feeling like it's under attack or in danger in some way, and now you're trying to change its belief system when it's already in a state of protecting itself. That's the last thing your subconscious mind is going to want when it's in a self-protection mode. If it feels like it's in danger, any extensive material that is going to shape its fundamental beliefs into something new is going to feel like a literal attack. It's going to feel like aggression. It's going to feel like something is killing you. Because your subconscious mind interprets your belief systems and your assumptions to be something that is true of yourself, who you are, and your reality. You need to be able to help it to lower its defenses, lower its guard down. It needs to be calm. If it's not in a calm state, every single subliminal affirmation that you listen to that is bypassing that coffee filter and going straight into the mug is going to feel like pure coffee grounds with no liquid. And your subconscious mind is going to want to chuck over that mug and empty it out. It's going to reject it. Straight up. This is why so many of you are not getting results. And you can look this up. You can research this yourself. This is something that I've learned quite extensively in my own studies. I'm going to be attending school to become a somatic art therapist. And I also have an extensive background in biochemistry, as well as working in outreach for homeless people. And I have also extensively studied the art of tarot, divination, spiritual psychology, you name it. I'm very much rooted in both mysticism and science, and I like to find the gateway in between both. I believe there's a place for both of them to exist. So this is where I'm approaching it from, as not only a scientific sort of perspective, but also a mystical one. But on the scientific side of things, this has all been founded in science, and you can research it yourself. And if there are certain things that can't be founded in science, you can look this up in terms of more spiritually aligned sciences or mystical truths or spiritual belief systems. You can find this in many, many belief systems or religions across the world. Your nervous system is the key to enlightenment. Your nervous system is the key to your inner power. Your nervous system is the key to your highest joy and your highest expression. If your nervous system is completely out of whack, you're never going to achieve your dreams. Simple truth. Even if you're listening to subliminals that are meant to calm down your nervous system might still interpret that as an attack. Your subconscious might still interpret that as an attack. So it may not actually work for you. Now, this is not referring to reverse results, because this is very normal when your subconscious mind is in a calm place and it's taking out the garbage, so to speak. It's taking out the old beliefs and inserting new beliefs. The old beliefs will come up to the surface, get very intense before they wash away. And usually reverse results only happen for maybe 1 to 2 days. And then you start getting noticeable results after that. That is not what I'm talking about here. Reverse results are a real thing and they're completely fine. Persist. Just persist for a day or two, and then you should start to see something happen. There are some people who go through reverse results for well over a week. And if that's the case for you, just know your own timing, experiment with it, play with it, write a little tiny journal excerpt for yourself. You don't have to post it to YouTube or Reddit or anything like that. You can keep it personal. Just write it in your phone notes or in an actual journal of where you're at and what you notice and what changes are happening, whether they're good or bad. And then if you see absolutely nothing good happening after maybe like 2-3 weeks, and it's just getting either worse or it's not improving, then you need to identify what is going on. I swear, 9 times out of 10, it's not the subliminal, it's not the affirmations, there's nothing wrong with the sub maker. It's usually the person that's listening to it. I'm not telling you to go buy new headphones. I'm not telling you to get a better phone in general, or a better computer, or better speakers. I'm not asking you to go and buy anything. I'm not going to get you to buy a course from me. None of that. What I am telling you right now is that you need to do the work to come back to baseline. You can research many different tactics to bring yourself back to baseline, to cue safety to yourself. The opposite of a trigger is a glimmer. Self-source glimmers around you. They're all around you if you know where to look for them. Subliminals will only work as good as your nervous system is. Your subconscious mind is a fertile playground for many wonderful things to happen. It is an opportunity for you to reframe fundamentally how you see reality, how you see yourself, and how you show up in the world and how you're perceived by others. Because we live in a consciousness field where we co-create with other people. And you can co-create your little bubble of reality to be exactly what you want if you know how to retrain your subconscious. That doesn't mean life is going to be flawless and perfect, because that would be completely boring. But you can bring raw material out from inside of yourself to be more resilient, to be more powerful, to be more happy, to experience more joy, to be able to go through the ups and downs of life with more grace and more attunement and more presence. You can experience more happiness and joy from being able to come back to baseline. That's where some of the richest opportunities lie. That's where the most rich brainwaves for manifestation and for reprogramming lie. You may have heard of, different monks sitting down in meditation, and they go into like gamma waves, and they can see it on like, different MRI machines and whatnot, and their brains lighting up in different areas that usually aren't lit up. That's because they've become hyper present and hyper attuned, and they're so much in their baseline. They're so much rooted in their reality that they're able to have a transcendent experience. And I think a lot of people believe that having a transcendent experience, or experiencing the rawness of reality itself, having mystical experiences in general, requires you to become completely disembodied and disconnected from your body. I may argue that it's the opposite, and many mystical teachings teach this, that actually the gateway into it is becoming very aware of your body, to become connected with it. Because your body is an extremely complex, multicellular organism, multi-organed organism that has many different brains, and not just the brain inside of your head. You have your nervous system as a brain. Your skin has its own brain, essentially. Your heart has its own brain, its own electromagnetic wave. It spirals. You can look this up for yourself. It spirals. Your gut has its own brain. There's a major axis between your gut brain and the brain inside of your skull. Your body is a very complex wonderland, and you have more cells in your body than there are stars in the known universe. Utilize that. If you have more cells in your body communicating with each other than stars in the known universe, do you really think that escaping your body and pretending it's not there is going to be the gateway to higher truth? No, it's not. And a lot of people will get into New Age spirituality, which I have nothing against, but one thing that grinds my gears is that New Age spirituality will often induce a form of spiritual psychosis that encourages numbness, that encourages disassociation, that encourages you to run away from discomfort, to run away from true shadow work. And it makes it a highly individual path, to the point where you have no reciprocal relationships with other beings around you. It can even trigger this form of psychosis where you believe that you can control other people, and you can control the whole planet. You can control the whole political system, the whole climate, all these different things. And I'm not negating your power. But the people that step into that kind of mindset become extremely disconnected from other people and become extremely lonely, to the point where they don't even know how to communicate anymore. They don't know how to be in reality anymore. And the only thing they want to talk about is their next spiritual breakthrough. There's nothing wrong with that. But the people like that walk around live a very lonely existence. And for many of them, it's a survival response. They'll go into New Age spirituality as a gateway into that numbness, into that freeze or flop mode. Often New Age spirituality is a freeze or flop mode for many people, because it's a gateway away from discomfort. It takes you away from your bodily sensations. It takes you away from other people. You don't feel like you have to be in a social group anymore, and you can escape being a social animal if you just walk a highly individualistic path. But what it ends up happening is it ends up destroying you over time. I had a dear friend of mine that I grew up with who ended up completely destroying her life because she kept going down that path. And I tried to pull her out of it many times, but then I realized that there was nothing that I could do to help her. I tried literally everything. All it ended up doing was making her start to completely disconnect from everyone around her. I was the last friend that she had left, aside from a romantic partner. And when she cut me off, she had nobody left. And she already expressed that she felt very lonely to me. And I tried to hold her accountable to the fact that she was extremely hard to communicate with, to be around. And I was still holding so much love for her and space for her. But I was holding her accountable to the fact that, do you think many of these conflicts that you've had with people have stemmed from this place of feeling like you have to be spiritually superior to them? Feeling like you need to step over them? Feeling like you're in competition with them? And then also feeling like you are numb and disconnected from the reality of things? And I told her that I knew that these were responses that she had, and that this is coming from an outside observation, and I asked her what she thought of it. She had no response for me. She didn't really know what to say. Instead, she ended up going back into her typical defense mechanisms of going, well, I had this conversation with my house brownie the other day, and completely changed the topic back onto some mystical spiritual stuff. That is a defense response. That is a trauma response. I'm not angry at her for it. If anything, I'm just really sad for her. I'm sad to have watched a dear friend of mine who was once so vibrant, so alive, and so present become a shell of her former self and retreat into New Age spirituality as a coping mechanism, as a way to shield herself from the harsh realities that she was facing. She was in many minority groups, and she still is. She's disabled. She has reproductive issues. She's brown and black. She's biracial, and she grew up Muslim. She grew up in a very traumatizing environment, and she's gone through a lot of shit. Of course she's going to retreat into something like this. Anyone who's gone through what she's gone through, I can see why anyone would go into these spaces, because it's a source of comfort. You don't have to be connected to the harsh reality that you live in if you can retreat into a space where you feel like you are God, where you feel like you are all powerful and you have control over every single little thing around you. And I'm not saying that you are not God. I'm not saying that you are not divinity, because you were created by something divine. You are alive because of something divine. But more of this really strange omnipotent attitude that many people have when they enter the New Age space. They believe that they can literally just point at another person and control what they think and feel, which is insane to me. I'm not saying telepathy doesn't exist. That's a form of communication. I'm talking about literally manipulating and controlling people around them. I mean, literally being able to say, oh, no climate change. I'm done. There's no climate change now. Bye-bye. Instead of actually taking action against it. People that retreat into those spaces are going down a really, really horrible path for themselves. But it's also a source of comfort. So have compassion for people that are going down the path. And if you're one of those people, I have so much compassion for you, because it's safer than facing some of the harsh things that we have to live through as human beings. Being human is tough. I won't deny that. And I'm not telling you that you have to immediately snap yourself out of the New Age stupor. And again, there's nothing wrong with New Age spirituality as long as you approach it with discernment. The issue being is if you use it as a gateway tool to disconnect, to turn off, to numb out, to distract. I challenge you to learn how to slowly stop distracting yourself. I challenge you to be able to come back. And aside from people using spirituality as a coping tool, as a strategy to escape, to distract, to numb, all of these other coping strategies and tools, the 5 F's, in general, you have to slowly challenge yourself out of your normal window of tolerance for discomfort to be able to handle more input, external stimuli, so that eventually you start to come back to baseline. So this can be small increments of facing discomfort head on. Very small though. I'm talking maybe a few seconds at a time. If you have a pretty narrow window of tolerance, I would recommend just starting with a few seconds. If you got a bigger one and you feel pretty comfortable with your resiliency, I challenge you to sit with it for a few minutes or more. Find little things that bring you discomfort. Perhaps it's your very long to-do list. Perhaps it's having a tough conversation with a friend that you've needed to have for a while. Perhaps it's holding someone accountable at work that's been driving you bananas and you just haven't said anything about it. Perhaps it's you taking a big leap in life that you haven't taken yet. Perhaps it's, if you have an addiction, seeing if you can spend a few minutes sitting with the sensation of going without. Not immediately going for the next hit or the next buzz or the next high. Just sitting with the sensation of wanting and desiring that so badly to the point where you might be messing up the rest of your life. And just sitting with it, being present with it, not trying to change it, not trying to deny it, not trying to push it away or numb or distract from it, because that creates new addictions in place of your old ones. I'm talking more of just sitting with it and being present with it. If it gets way too overwhelming and it's way too much for you to handle, you can step away and go back into your coping mechanisms anytime. If you need to face it for a few minutes or a few seconds, however long you can handle, and then go back to your old ways, I give you full permission to do that. That is completely okay. For example, if you have a nicotine addiction, sit with not going and getting a hit from your nicotine for a few minutes when you start to have a craving. See what happens. Notice it, be with it, and then you're allowed to take a hit. Set like a 5-minute timer of not hitting your vape or cigarette, and just sit with the feeling of the craving. And just notice it, be with it, breathe into it, be present with it. Don't demand that it needs to change or go away, just be present with it. Have a conversation with it because it is a part of you. Self-awareness comes from communicating with different aspects of yourself because we are multifaceted and complex beings. That's the beauty of being human. And we are also storytelling creatures. So if you can identify the stories that you were telling yourself in your body, you can identify what belief systems your subconscious is holding. If you sit with the sensations of your body, that's a direct communication line to your subconscious. You can figure out what discomfort or fears that your subconscious is going through. What limiting beliefs is making your subconscious coil inwards and shield itself from new information and new material. When you sit with your sensations and you sit with your body and your subconscious, it opens up so many gateways. I spent a long time listening to subliminals where I had very minimal results, but I still had some. And the small, minute results that I did get gave me enough hope to keep going and to keep listening to them. And then eventually I was starting to get frustrated. I hit a plateau for a while where I really wasn't getting any results. And mind you, I've been listening to them for almost 7 years, so I know a lot from my own raw experience of it and my own journey of it. And when I started to really work with my subconscious and my body and what it was trying to tell me, that's when everything shifted. And I started to get very drastic results. And I started to feel such a deeper and wider range of emotion. I started to feel more beautiful highs and more devastating lows. But all of them made me feel more well-rounded and human and glorious. And not out of a place of extremes, because I could always come back to baseline. I could always come back to neutrality and peace, and I could stay there for a majority of my day. But I also had so much more range and depth on top of being able to spend more time at baseline. I started to get the best sleep of my life. All of my strange chronic health problems started to slowly slip away. I'm pretty certain at one point I was starting to develop an autoimmune illness, and I think I caught myself early enough before it became something like that. I was starting to have some extreme problems with socializing and extreme problems with body image and extreme problems with my sense of self-worth. I had initially turned to subliminals to give myself a sense of, well, if I'm pretty enough, if I'm smart enough, if I'm gifted and talented enough, if I'm wealthy enough, if I have enough friends, all these different things, if I'm the best of the best, then I will finally be happy and I'll finally feel grateful. And I'll finally be good enough, and I'll be worthy enough of love. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I was always worthy of love, and so are you, dear listener. Even if you've never gotten results, even if you don't feel like you're good enough, you are. Your existence is proof of your validity, is proof that you're meant to be here. It is proof that you were meant to be alive. Some strange mystical thing in this universe, whether you believe in God or spirits or creator or even just the universe itself or evolution, if you're atheist, it doesn't matter your beliefs. You were meant to be here. You're meant to be alive. You're meant to exist. Evolution chose you. Reproduction chose you. You won the sperm race. God chose you to be here. Spirit chose you to be here. The field of consciousness that operates everything in quantum physics decided to birth you as an embodiment of consciousness, of aliveness. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of existence because you are simply here now. And that's all you ever need to be. Subliminals are a tool for us to improve our lives, not as a tool for us to prove our worth or our validity. They're meant to make us feel good and make us feel happy and to improve our quality of life, not as a whip for self-punishment, not as a tool to say there's something wrong with us or that we need this end goal in order to be worthy of something. No, dear listener. And that's another thing that also deeply, deeply triggers someone's subconscious. And this is where a lot of people get into the self-concept argument of you just need to feel worthy of your desires. Feeling worthy of your desires is realizing that your desires are already inside of you, waiting to blossom. They're already a part of you because you feel them, because you desire them. Desire is the thing that makes our universe operate. Intimacy and the uniting of two different forces creates atoms, both neutrons and protons and electrons meeting and creating matter around us, galaxies spinning around a sun because of magnetic attraction. You desiring something is this magnetic thing within you that is pulling you towards a new version of yourself or something outside of you that you deeply, deeply want. That magnetism that's within you is the natural response of the universe. It's meant to be honored. It's meant to be seen as worthy. That's a beautiful thing. So don't look at your desires as something that you should be ashamed of, or your desires as proof that you're not good enough as you are now, because that's not true. Your desires are just proof that you're here and you're worthy of them to begin with. The universe wants you to have your desires. That's why you're here. It's not meant to be used as a tool to shame yourself. Well, if I want to have this thing, that means that I'm not good enough right now, or my reality isn't good enough, or I'm not grateful enough. No, it's not. I'm going to stop you right there. Do not use subliminals as a tool for self-flagellation, for self-aggrandizement, for self-deprecation. Don't. Subliminals are meant to be a tool for greater awareness, for growth, and for happiness. And the growth journey never stops. There's no finite point where growth ends. It's a continuous, never-ending cycle. And the mystics talk about this tool. It never stops. There's always something new to learn, something new to expand on, something to revisit. And the whole journey, the whole process of being here is the beauty of existence itself. That's the beauty of being human. You get to create your own story. You get to write your own version of your own life. So live it, my friends. Use subliminals as a reminder that your desires are holy, they're divine, and they're not separate from you. They're already within. And allow your nervous system to come into a place of rest. Come into a place of calmness. It's okay to feel neutral. To demand that you feel happy all of the time would mean that you're not even at baseline. Peace is really what we seek as human beings. But our capitalistic, materialistic society wants us to believe that it's happiness that we chase. And happiness is a wonderful feeling. It's elevated, it's close to euphoria. But we're not meant to feel that all of the time, because if we did, we would burn ourselves out. Peace is so much more deeply rooted than happiness. And if I may argue, it's just as pleasurable as euphoria or joy or happiness, but it's a different kind of pleasure. It's nourishing. It's restful. It doesn't have the jitters of excitement to it. There's a certainty to it. There's a softness. Happiness is wonderful, and it's jittery, and it's exciting, and as you go up to the different phases of joy and euphoria, it's wonderful. It feels so expansive and explosive and like fireworks. But peace is where you want to be most of the time. Imagine if you were just shaking 24/7. You'd feel like you would have run a marathon. That wouldn't be very fun, would it? That's what being happy all of the time would do to you. It would eventually burn you out. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy. Happiness is still a state of being that you deserve to operate in, and that's completely okay. I only challenge you to not chase happiness and joy, because it will only lead to empty fodder. I challenge you to spend most of your days looking for peace, looking for baseline. And that's also not your excuse to avoid discomfort or avoid joy or avoid happiness. I just want you to come back to it. Picture like you're coming home after a really fun night out, partying, or coming home after a long and stressful day of work. It's your peace. It's your place of nourishment, replenishment, and rest, so that you can go back out into the world after and experience the highs and the lows of human existence and have a full battery for it, a full energy bar for it. And you can't demand your subconscious mind to process subliminals if it's operating from an empty energy, from a words, from an empty battery. There we go, an empty battery. You need a full battery in order to be able to process new information and to be able to dig out old beliefs and put in new ones, because it's hard work for your subconscious. It's hard work for your mind. Anytime that I have a breakthrough, anytime that I have a major result, I feel wiped out afterwards. I feel tired. I feel very euphoric at first and very happy and very excited. But then afterwards, as my subconscious continues to process the new information and cement the new assumption in firmly, I can feel my body going, oh, I used up all of my energy. I need to go back to baseline now. I need nourishment. I need sleep. I need water. And that's a sign that it's working. If you need to eat more, if you need to drink more water, if you need more sleep, that probably means that your subconscious is processing shit. So just an FYI, don't shame yourself if you suddenly need more sleep or more water or more food. There's nothing wrong with it. Your body needs it for nourishment, and so does your subconscious, equally so. Since your subconscious is directly connected to your body, you need to take care of your body. And may I argue as well, using exercise not as a tool to change the shape of your body or the aesthetics of your body, but more to process feelings and sensations that are within your body too. May I challenge you to possibly use exercise as a tool to process anger, grief, sadness, depression, shame, guilt, all of the different emotions, or even just a sense of excitement or nervousness or anxiety too. Even just the jitters, or to come out of numbness and disassociation, because it's very grounding to engage in exercise. It allows you to expel things that are no longer serving you, to get rid of stuck things that could be in your body. And if you're feeling numb or disassociated, it can call your spirit back into your body, your consciousness back into the sensations of your existence. So use exercise not as a tool to change how you look. Don't use exercise as a tool to shame yourself, because many people fall into that camp. Exercise is not meant to be a tool for shame. It's meant to be a tool for your health, and not just your physical health, because doctors love to tell us about the benefits of exercise for your physical health, but also for your emotional health, your mental health. Even if you are not a fan of going to the gym, just going outside for a hike or a walk, even just stretching, even just dancing. Dancing is one of the best forms of movement for the human body, by far. And it's accessible for just about anybody. Even if you're in a wheelchair, even if you're disabled, you can find little ways to dance. You can dance with your fingers. You can dance with your face. You can dance with your eyes even. I've seen some pretty cool stuff that people can do with their eyes and eyebrows. I don't know if you guys saw that really old chocolate commercial or whatever that was from Europe. Anyways, but the point is, dancing is one of the most accessible things for all people, and it is one of the greatest antidepressants, and you can dance to process any emotion and any feeling through movement, and it's one of the best forms of meditation out there. A lot of people think meditation involves sitting prone and still and not doing anything, but dancing can also be an active meditation. Meditation can be inclusive of movement, and dare I say, one of the best forms of meditation, because it teaches you how to be present while doing things. You can dance out your rage. You can dance out your grief. You can dance out any emotion that you're feeling, and that is such a beautiful thing. If I'm ever feeling awful, and I just had the shittiest day ever, I love to come home, go into my room, put on a really loud, angry playlist, and dance as angry as I can. Now, the first time that you do this, where you're not just dancing to look good or to feel good, but you're dancing out a negative emotion, and I say negative emotion colloquially because emotions are just messengers of an experience, and they're not necessarily bad or negative, but we perceive them to be. But anyways, so if you're using it to dance at an emotion that isn't just solely joy or happiness, it may feel a little foreign or a little strange. You might even cringe at yourself a little bit out of shame or embarrassment of like, why am I doing this? This looks silly. Do it by yourself so that you have a cue of safety. Create a safe container. Ritualize your space if you have to. If you have to light some candles or some incense or bring in some objects that feel sacred or safe to you, bring them into the space, put on a playlist, curate a playlist intentionally that mirrors that emotion. And allow yourself to just sink into the feeling of it, sink into the sensations of your body, and ask your body, how do I want to move as I'm listening to this music and feeling this emotion and this sensation? And allow it to just unfold. It's one of the most healing experiences that I could ever prescribe to a person, including myself. It's actually been one of the main healing modalities that has helped me to put my CPTSD into remission. And it also can be used as a tool alongside subliminals for manifestation. If you're calling in a specific thing, dance it. Let's say, for example, you're calling in money. What would it feel like to receive your desire of more money? Put on a song, maybe 2, maybe 3, however many you feel called to, doesn't matter, that matches the exact feeling of receiving your desire of that money. So this could be a song where it talks about money in general. This could be a song that just makes you feel wealthy, even if they don't necessarily talk about money. It's all up to your own subjective experience, whatever feels like pure wealth to you. Then you're going to put it on, ritualize your space, make it feel comfy, make it feel cozy, allow your mindset to slip into a bit of a different state, and then picture in your body the sensations and the emotions of receiving that desire, of receiving that money, and allow yourself to embody it. You know how like a lot of like subliminal makers and artists and influencers that tell you to act as if, this is what they mean. This is what they're not telling you. This is why a lot of you get confused as to what act as if you already have your desires. How does that work? This is how it works. You feel it in your body as if it is already happening. You visualize the emotion. You visualize it with your 5 senses, baby. You picture it in your mind. You taste it. You smell it. You hear it. You see it. You feel it on your skin. Imagine you're picking up money that has been delivered to your doorstep, delivered in your hand. You feel it in your hand, or you get the emotional sensation of seeing it land in your bank account, and you picture opening your bank account and seeing it there. Whatever you need to do to visualize it, but you also need to feel it emotionally. This is where people often get blocked when they're trying to act as if. They're not embodying it. Embodiment is the key. And this is why a lot of these people won't tell you this, is because they want you to try and figure it out on your own. They want you to flail. They want you to buy their courses or to use their subliminals or to treat them like they have all the answers and there's some mysterious, strange figure that just has it all. They want you to feel ashamed and like you can't get your results. Or they think, perhaps they have good intentions and they just think that saying, act as if is explanatory enough. But for many of us, that is not explanatory enough. I certainly didn't understand it when I first got into subliminals. I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. And then eventually, as I started to work with somatics, as I started to work with my body, my sensations, my nervous system, that's when it clicked for me. And I understood exactly what they were talking about. And I started to watch it happen in real time. So with this dance ritual, you're going to feel it as if it's happening. You're not just going to visualize it, you're going to feel the emotions of it. You're going to conjure them up. And then you're going to dance with them. You're going to flirt with these emotions. You're going to flirt with the universe. You're going to have fun with it. Because that's the point of it, is to have fun. Manifestation is not supposed to be this, there's something wrong with me and I need to fix it. Baby, you're a human being, not a math equation. Calm down. You're supposed to have fun. Manifestation is supposed to be fun. Life is supposed to be play. So have fun with it, girl. I say girl colloquially. There could be some men listening on here too. But you get what I mean. It's supposed to be amusement. It's supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you feel powerful. It's supposed to add to your sense of peace, add to your sense of baseline. And it will inspire you to go out into the world and to live your purpose, to live your gifts, to bring the best version of you forward. Because that's all that manifestation is stripping away all of the barriers and the programming and the bullshit that was put onto you from birth in this crazy society, in this crazy world that we live in. You're stripping away anything that isn't you, and you're allowing the true version of you to come back to life. You're giving that shit some CPR, baby. You're allowing it to be reborn again. Before it was covered in the rubble, and now you're taking away that rubble bit by bit. That's all that manifestation is. You're coming back to your true self. You're coming back to your true form. You're allowing yourself to expand instead of contract. Just remember that it's all within you. All of it is. That's what these subliminal makers and these subliminal influencers are trying to tell you when they say that it's all within you. It is all within you. You're just returning to who you are. You're remembering again because you had forgotten. You had forgotten through all of the trauma and the stress and the programming that society has put onto you. You have just forgotten who you innately are. All that it is a remembrance. And when you remember again, you come back to yourself. You shine again. You become radiant again. And that's a beautiful thing to witness the unfolding of that. And look, I feel like I've explained this very thoroughly. And many of you may still not quite understand what I'm getting at. But my only clue to you to take on from here is just learn to embody it, to live it, to experience it, to remember yourself, and to chase peace, not just short-term happiness. You deserve that. And one more thing might I add. Fuck the patriarchy. Fuck capitalism. Fuck fascism. Fuck racism. Fuck homophobia. Fuck transphobia. Fuck all of it. Fuck xenophobia. We are all beautiful. We are all divine. And many of us hold the blueprints and the imprints of all of these systems of hatred upon us. So allow yourself to be free of it. Even if you are a white, cisgender, heterosexual man, and you are at the top of the food chain, baby, you have still been affected by all of these systems of oppression to some degree. You might have just been a bystander through all of it, but it still sucks to witness it. So have forgiveness for yourself, have compassion for yourself. Don't let these systems bog you down. Allow yourself to become free of them and use them as fuel for your fire to make the world a better place. Your gifts, your arts, your creativity, your talents, your innate light that you have to shine upon this world will help to make the world a better place. I promise you. Even if you think it might be selfish, it matters. Whether it's being literally an artist or being someone who works in the trades, a blue-collar job, all of it contributes in some way, shape, or form. As long as you feel like you are living your purpose and your truth, that's what truly matters. And I'm not talking solely about a job either. Your purpose and your truth can even be outside of your job and what you just bring to the table on a day-to-day basis when you talk to people, whether it's your family, your friends, your coworkers, or your broader community, or just the way that you show up. Maybe you're here to give people radical permission to be themselves. It could be a range of things. You could be here to innovate, to create, to destroy what no longer should be there, to speak up for it, to advocate. There's a range of what your purpose could be. But your desires always point you home to your purpose. And they're all within you. It's just a matter of remembering them. You matter. Your role in the world matters. Your contribution matters. Your existence matters. Even if you are just sitting here, bed rotting, you're still giving some CO2 into the air for trees and plants to breathe. Your breath and your existence literally nourishes other life forms on this planet. Just being here and being alive matters. I love you so much. If you have any questions, any comments, or you need to reach out to me privately, you can do so via email. I hope you all have such a blessed, wonderful day. Peace out.